Okay, this is a video for 3D graphing by plotting. Okay, so your objective, I can draw the graph of an equation by plotting several of the solutions to the equation. So first, what is the solution of an equation? Well, this is an x and y that make the equation true. So these also make up the graph of an equation. So remember that the graph is the actual, it's not the coordinate plane, but the actual line or design basically that you see on the coordinate plane. So if you put in an x value, you can find out the y value. So if you put an x value into an equation and simplify it, you can find out the y value. If you put in a y value and simplify it, you can find out the x value. You can use these points to plot the graph of the equation. So if you come up with some x's, you can find out the y or vice versa, and this will give you the graph of the equation by plotting these points. So here's how we do it. Here's some hints. You're going to make a table of the solutions. You want to use enough points to get the shape of the graph. This means both positives and negatives. You also get to pick the points, so you're going to want to try to make this easy on yourself. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So we're going to make a table. So I'm going to pick some x's and find out what the y's are. And so I said pick the points to make it easy on yourself. So for instance, a point that would be easy is 0. If I use 0, that usually gets rid of some stuff and makes it easy to simplify. So I'm going to take this equation, and everywhere there's an x, I'm going to put a home, I'm going to put a set of parentheses, and just copy down the rest of the equation. So just like this. Okay, so everywhere there's a parentheses, I'm going to plug in that x that I decided to use, which is 0. So I'm going to put a 0 here, and I'm going to put a 0 here, and now I just need to simplify my equation. So I'm plugging in an x to find out what the y is. Always use order of operations when you simplify. So we're going to start with parentheses. Is there anything inside the parentheses I can simplify? Well, there's nothing inside the parentheses, so my next step would be to do the exponent. So I can square this. So 0 squared is just 0. There aren't any other exponents in the equation, so I'm going to go ahead and go to multiplying and dividing. So I can go ahead and multiply this together. Negative 4 times 0 is 0, and then just plus 3. So 0 was a good number to pick because simplify it all, I just get 3. So when x is 0, y is 3. So now I need to pick another number to put in here. And like I said, make it easy on yourself. I'm not going to choose 327. I'm going to use 1. 1's much easier. And now I need to put my skeleton in my equation again. Same as before. I made some copies when I drew it before. So I'm going to use this. Same equation. And now everywhere there's an x, I am going to put in 1. And I'm going to follow order of operations again. So y equals, well, 1 squared is 1. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 plus 3. So 1 plus 3 is 4, minus 4 is 0. I just did that in an order that was a little bit faster for me. And this is a little bit tedious, but you do have to go through and get several points. This is not enough points to graph my equation yet. So set up my skeleton again. Plug in, well, I said I needed to use positives and negatives, so let's go ahead and try a negative 1. So what if I put in a negative 1 here? And this is one of the times where it's really important to make sure you have a home for what you're plugging in, because having parentheses around this is very different than not having parentheses around this. Negative 1 in parentheses squared is saying square the negative also. So this is going to be negative 1 squared is positive 1. So y equals 1. Then negative 4 times negative 1 is plus 4, and then plus 3. And I get 8. So when x is negative 1, y is 8. So let me plot some of these points and kind of see where my graph is going and see if I can figure anything out yet. So I have 0 and 3. I have 1 and 0. I have negative 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I need to come up with some more points. Well, if I were to go to negative 2, just looking at what this is doing, I'm going to assume that's going to go off the graph here. So I'm going to go this way instead. So I've done 1. Let's try 2. Let me pull over another little skeleton of my equation here. And just keep in mind we're just doing this over and over, so I'm going to actually draw some lines in between here. We did this one, and we did this one, and we did this one, and now we're on to this one. So I'm going to plug in 2 into my equation, and y equals 4 minus 8 plus 3, and I get 0. So when x is 2, y is 0. So let's see what that looks like over here. I think I moved my graph slightly here, so let's move that back. I was at 0, 3. That's not it. Did I plot one of these wrong? I think I plot one of these wrong. Okay, no, I didn't plot one of these wrong. I just confused myself. Okay, there we go. Okay, so 2, 0. Let's plot that. So 2, 0. Well, you know what? Going back here, I made a mistake here. 4 plus 3 is an 8. 4 plus 3 is 7, so this is actually going to be negative 1. So negative 1. There we go. Okay, so backing up, sorry, I'm being confusing here. When x is 2, y is negative 1. So when x is 2, y is negative 1. So I'm going to keep going this direction here. Let's try 3. I'm going to bring this guy over, and I'm going to plug in 3, and then I'm going to simplify. So I get y equals 3 squared is 9 minus 12 plus 3. So 9 minus 12 is negative 3, plus 3 is going to be 0. So I have 3, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 0. And I'm going to do this one more time. I'm kind of starting to see what's going on here, but I'm going to get one more point in here just to be sure. So yep, you need to come up with however many points it takes for you to be sure that you have the shape of your graph. And we're going to learn more about these graphs coming up here. But for now, we're just kind of guessing and using intuition about what we think this is going to look like. So last one here, I'm going to try 4. I'm going to pull this guy over here. I'm going to plug in 4. I would pause the video and see if you can come up with what this simplifies to. But go ahead and give this a try. Okay. Hopefully you gave that a try and you can hopefully came up with the same answer as I did. If you did not, check your work with mine. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Well, it looks like it's going back up. So I'm going to call it and say that we do have a graph here. And I'm going to go down and back up. And even though I don't have points over here, I'm just going to finish it off like that. Make sure you go to the edge of your graph and make sure that you always put some arrows on there. All right, so let's try this again with a different equation. Okay, so here's my graph, or my equation. I kind of gave it away there because I accidentally had the line in there. But let's go ahead and graph some points. So we have x and we have y. And I am going to copy this down, take out the x, put a home, put in a parentheses. And now I'm going to pick some points. And 0 is always a great point to start off with. So x is 0. I'm going to plug it in, and then I just need to simplify. So 1/2 times 0 is 0, and then 0 plus 2 is 2. There we go. Next, let's try this again. And now here's where I'm talking about, I'm going to draw a little line here, about using numbers that are easy. So let's talk about this. Here's a skeleton again. Now I could plug in a 3, and then I have to do 1/2 of 3, and then I have to add that to 2. And while that's not that hard, it would be easier to use a number that I can multiply 1/2 and get a whole number. That would make this a little bit easier on me. So multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. So the numbers that would be helpful here, an even number would be nice. So let's try 2 instead of 1. So I'm going to put in 2. 1/2 of 2 is 1. And so I get y equals 1 plus 2 equals 3. A little bit easier math on me that way. Do this again. Make sure I use some negatives. So I'll pull this guy in. I'm going to draw a line to show that this is a separate problem that I'm working on here. And I'm going to put in -2. So if I put in -2, what does this simplify to? Well, 1/2 of -2 is -1 plus 2 equals 1. Now let's try another number. Well, I could do 3, but 3 is kind of tricky. So I'm going to do, well, it's tricky because it's not an even number, and I want an even number here. So I'm going to try 4. Plug in 4. So 1/2 of 4. 1/2 of 4 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. All right, let's plot some points here and see what's going on. So we have 0, 2. We also have 2, 3. We have -2, 1. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. I'm going up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. I'm going to call it and say that we have enough to plot this and that this is a line. There we go. All right, using these strategies, go ahead and make your table here, x, y, and then pick some points. Okay, and I'm going to give you a hint here. 0 is a good one to use. It doesn't matter if they're odd, even, because we're just going to square them. Just make sure that when you square them, you square that negative as well. Okay, so put in some positives and some negatives, all which will fit on the graph here.